Welcome to California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Thank you for joining us. We are coming to you from Sacramento, and we are joined by Jose Medina. He's a member of the California State Assembly. And congratulations, sir. I know how hard you worked in your first year in office to make sure that UC Riverside would see its medical school open, and it did. It did. And how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm feeling very proud of our region. It was a great moment recently when we were at the UC Riverside and got to join the 50 students who received their white coats that day.
And let's talk about the journey, because it has been a long one. This is the first public medical school to open on the West Coast in 40 years. And in actuality, this is the first medical school to open after accreditation was denied. It was able to gain accreditation after a denial. Talk to me about that bumpy road.
It was, and I think one of the great things about our community is that the private sector really stepped up, and I think donated somewhere around $10 million to the effort. But it was also a political effort as well as a community effort, and I think the hard work of Senator Roth and myself here in Sacramento in the end paid off.
I will say, and I don't say this often, but you are being humble, because it is undeniable that both you and Senator Roth put every ounce of your political weight behind this effort. It was the first bill you submitted when you walked in the door. It was Senator Roth's, I believe, first bill. And whenever asked, this is what you wanted. The both of you wanted to see that the state of California provide continuing funding for UCR Medical to the tune of $15 million a year. And miraculously, it happened. It was vetoed last year, could have been vetoed again.
You know, we had bipartisan support in both the Senate and the Assembly, and it passed almost unanimously in both houses, and we were very happy when the governor put it into his budget.
I want you to give us a sense as to why this moment is so pivotal for the Inland Empire as it relates to its healthcare paradigm, because the bottom line is the Inland Empire is unique as you consider its medical profession.
You know, we really lag behind the rest of the state in the number of doctors per population. I think the state average is something like
about 80 per 100,000.
And we're almost half of that in the Inland Empire.
You are.
More like 40 doctors per 100,000 people.
And what's unique about UCR Medical is when it admits its students, its medical students, its formula is a bit different than others. Tell us about that formula.
So half of those 50 students who were admitted are UCR grads. And we think very much that the students who go to school in our area, especially if they've gone undergrad to UC Riverside, when they finish medical school will very much want to practice in our area.
And as I understand it, Dean Olds, Richard Olds of the medical school, has developed residency programs that are of particular need in the Inland Empire as an additional method to keep graduates and ultimate residents in the IE, because Inland California needs doctors.
And we especially need primary care physicians. And we that's the one of the groups of doctors that we want to have, as well as pediatricians. And I think we have different programs in place that'll want to work with the students who remain to practice.
And as I understand it, primary care medicine is one of those 6 residency programs. When we come back, sir, I want to talk to you more about the need for primary care physicians, because that need is becoming even more acute with the passage of the Affordable Care Act. So we'll talk about that when we come back. For our viewers on HLN, we thank you so much for joining us. For our other viewers, we'll be right back on California Edition. So, Mr. Medina, I want to speak with you about the Affordable Care Act and how it plays specifically in the Inland Empire. You mentioned that UC Riverside is looking to foster more primary care physicians. Why is that critical, not only for the IE, but in the era of the Affordable Care Act?
Well, the Affordable Care Act will put more demand on the need for doctors. It's going to increase the number of people seeking medical care. And most of that will be primary care physicians, and it's in that area where we need to have more doctors and doctors who are familiar with the Riverside area.
I want to get a sense from you about the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. I think about your communities, Riverside, Moreno Valley, and Paris, some well-heeled areas, also some areas that face some economic challenges. And it's those areas that face economic challenges that arguably would benefit most from the Affordable Care Act. But those individuals can only benefit if they are aware of the benefits of the Affordable Care Act. Do you feel as if the message is getting out about the exchange programs, the health exchange programs, the expansion of Medi-Cal, Medicaid? Because without people signing up, they can't get the benefits.
You know, I think the message is indeed beginning to get out there on the Affordable Care Act. Very recently, we did a forum along with Congressman Takano, Senator Roth, very well attended. And we see many different organizations who are doing the job of getting the word out to the people of our area.
What about folks that may not speak English as their first language? I think about the new Inland Empire, and there are many individuals that are primarily Spanish speakers. And while I understand that efforts are being made to reach Spanish-speaking communities, we're still English dominant. And so are those messages being heard, received, delivered?
No, I know that there will be bilingual Spanish-speaking groups involved in putting out the information, involved in enrolling people in the Affordable Care Act. I think Covered California has the ability to answer in, I think, 300 and some different languages.
Right.
So I'm very confident that whatever the language needs of the people in our area, we will have somebody there who can answer their questions.
You mentioned Covered California, and we know that on January 1st, it's supposed to be fully implemented, it being the California Healthcare Exchange. Do you think we're ready? Because there are rumblings that even though California has strived to be one of the forerunners with exchanges, that there could be some technical issues percolating.
So October, we begin the enrollment process. October 1, we begin to enroll people. And I know that the state is doing a huge effort to get the word out, and I feel confident that come January 1st, we're going to be up and running.
I want to speak more generally about the Inland Empire. You've lived there your entire adult life, and you've seen some real expansion, I'm sure. But I know that you've had to have lived through the recent downturn that has been particularly painful for the IE. Data suggests the IE is turning around, but numbers are one thing and people's lives are another. Do you see that turnaround happening?
You know, I do see. You know, when I talk to business owners, when I talk to owners of car dealerships, when I talk to people even in construction, when I talk to people in banking, I think in all those different sectors, we're seeing an uptick and people's lives getting better.
We also know that one of the reasons the Inland Empire suffered so dramatically was the bust in the housing market. The good news is the housing market is turning around, including and especially in the Inland Empire. But some could argue that that turnaround may be too exuberant, that home prices and home sales are going up too quickly. And we know that a lot of all-cash buyers are coming into the Inland Empire. And so now it's getting more difficult to buy a home. Are you concerned?
Sure, I'm concerned with the difficulty in buying homes. And I was very happy to see different banks coming together in our community and offering home-time buyers incentives.
The first-time home buyers?
Yes, to home-time buyers, actually giving as much as $15,000 to first-time hometown buyers, aimed at our specific communities in the Inland Empire.
His name is Jose Medina. He is a member of the California State Assembly. When we come back, we'll be speaking with Bill Monning, a member of the California State Senate, get his take on the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. My name is Brad Pomerance. You're watching California Edition.
How many separate accredited medical schools operate in California? 8, 9, 10, or 12? 12 medical schools educate future doctors in California.
Welcome to California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. I'm glad you're with us from our Sacramento bureau. Our guest today is Bill Monning. He's a member of the California State Senate. And sir, I want to speak with you about what's known as the underground economy. What exactly is that?
So the underground economy is kind of a term of art used to describe part of our economy that is not playing by the rules. It's sometimes called the shadow economy. Employers who often pay with cash, don't provide workers' compensation, no payroll tax. So the workers are being cheated, the state of California is being cheated, the consumer is being cheated, and law-abiding employers are being cheated.
That being said, I think when we think of underground economy, we presume that the actual product is nefarious, and that's not necessarily the case. I mean, it could be the sale of marijuana or other illicit drugs,
right,
but not necessarily.
No, a lot of what we're looking at and some of the legislation I've carried, and it's always been a bipartisan effort. I've been working closely this year with Assemblymember Cacho Asajian,
right,
who we share some overlap in the areas we represent. But a lot of the underground economies in the construction trades, a contractor who will bring a group of workers to do a roofing project on somebody's home or a larger project, but not playing by the rules, not providing the protections, not providing workers' comp. And by virtue of this, they underbid the law-abiding employers. So a lot of what we've tried to do is level the playing field. We want to encourage people to play by the rules, to protect workers, to protect consumers. If it's a fly-by-night outfit that's doing work on somebody's home and they do a shoddy job, there's no recourse if they don't have a state license as a contractor.
And I also know often, and I think about the Los Angeles area, you will see DVDs being sold. Mm-hmm. You will see VHSs or CDs. Right. It's clear that these are not legitimate and part of what you call the underground economy.
That's right, and that goes to the violation of intellectual property rights, of copyright, of artists, of movie makers, etc. And it's a huge problem in this country. It's a huge problem internationally.
Now, here's the challenge. I've spoken with you about this. I've spoken with Jerome Horton, the chairman of the Board of Equalization. Both of you have been looking at this issue like a laser beam and wanting to address it for the benefit of consumers and the state. But it costs money.
That's right.
In order to dig under the underground economy, you need law enforcement.
You need enforcement. So what we've been able to do during these lean years of reduced budgets is to try to become more efficient. We've worked to give some of the agencies that have oversight, Employment Development Department, State Franchise Tax Board, Division of Industrial Relations, Labor Commissioner. We've tried to create avenues for them to do more collaborative work with existing staff, share investigative information with each other, to protect the consumer, and to have that enforcement sting capacity. They go after one lawbreaker, often turn cases over to a local district attorney. It can have a deterrent effect on others who are breaking the law.
But here we are. The economy is doing better. The state budget looks stronger. And as we all know, it takes money to make money.
That's right.
And at a certain level, the state would bring in more tax revenue if they spent a little more money to hire detectives.
You're exactly right.
So do we have the money now?
Well, we have more than we did. We have the benefit of Prop 30's passage. We have a balanced budget without massive cuts this year. For the first time in my 5 years in the legislature, we do have a balanced budget, and there's a little breathing space. But as you can imagine, there's a lot of competition for that budget. As you say, Brad, I think the allocation of resources into these enforcement activities, it nets money for the state. It's estimated we're losing $8 billion a year of revenues to the state.
I want to talk more about this when we come back. For our viewers on HLN, we thank you so much for joining us. For our other viewers, we'll be right back. So, Senator, like we said, it takes money to make money.
That's right.
And it would seem to me that as leadership is looking at whether to spend some extra money to bring in more money into the state coffers as well as protect consumers, it's a good buy.
It is. It's a win-win. And as I said earlier, we're losing an estimated $8 billion a year nationally. That's just revenue to the state from payroll taxes, other contributions that an employer would be making on behalf of the employees. There's another adverse impact to consumers and taxpayers. People that aren't protected in their workplace often become a charge of the state for medical support if they have an injury or in older years. There's also people seeking cover who might be under an order to provide child support, and they seek out a job in the underground economy. They want to be paid in cash so they can avoid paying child support. So we have district attorneys, we have advocates for children also supporting us becoming more laser focused and expanding our capacity to crack down on this illegal underground economy.
It also seems that this question is bollocksed up in immigration, because we know that a lot of the underground economy can focus on workers who don't have Social Security numbers.
Right.
It could be the nanny.
Right.
It could be the day laborer. So talk to me about how you address that paradigm.
Well, I think it ties into the broader national conversation about immigration reform, because a lot of the construction industry, these underground employers will recruit undocumented workers, pay them in cash, often less than minimum wage, and on the surface it may seem, well, somebody's getting a bargain there, but everybody's getting hurt, and the state's being hurt, those workers are being hurt, and the consumer often has no recourse against those contractors or employers. The undocumented worker is fully protected by our labor laws, so they are entitled to workers' comp.
But they don't know that.
But they don't know it, and they fear the consequence of deportation if they complain.
And speaking of not having the knowledge of legal protections, I know that as we look toward the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, so many of these workers that you mentioned, and people who presumably could have the knowledge, don't.
Right.
What are you hearing on the ground in your 400-mile district about the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, the exchanges that will be available, the expansion of Medicaid, as we know it, Medicaid?
Well, I really appreciate the question, Brad, because recent polling shows a small percentage of people are aware of the Affordable Care Act and their eligibility and protections that they might benefit from. Already families are protected that you can't deny somebody for a pre-existing condition for a child up to 18. That will extend to all adults after January. But this coming October, in just a couple of months, will be the first open enrollment period on the California Exchange, Covered California, coveredca.gov. And there's a benefit to individuals, to self-employed, small business owners. Up to 50 employees are not mandated to do anything, but they can help guide their employees to coverage.
I know that California has made valiant efforts to be out in front on the Affordable Care Act. California has received grants to implement its exchanges. But I've heard rumblings that California may not be ready. Maybe more ready than other states, but are we ready for that January 1st trigger?
I think we'll be there. It's a heavy lift. There's going to be some bumps in the road, but the infrastructure that's been built, the support to do the outreach, to help people with enrollment, and I will say the medical insurance industry, this is not socialized medicine. This isn't government medicine. It's private medical insurance companies offering their products, where we have required they have to offer certain things to every consumer: preventive care, immunizations, maternity coverage, no lifetime caps on what somebody might have to use if they have a catastrophic accident. So there's a lot of benefits. The key now is public education. We've been holding some events in the district to educate folks.
Because there is no doubt that Covered California has a significant advertising budget.
Yes.
And I understand they've even contracted with some television shows. So I think Modern Family is one to discuss healthcare exchanges. But it is those communities that need health care the most that may not have access to computers and televisions where Modern Family is.
And there's language issues, although the Covered California is preparing their outreach materials in multiple languages. One of the omissions in the Affordable Care Act is that it explicitly does not provide coverage to undocumented workers. That's a charged political issue, I understand that. But from a community health point of view, germs do not check to see if someone has a green card. So to build public health, you really need a coverage system that provides access to primary care to all Californians.
His name is Bill Monning. I'm Brad Pomerance. We'll be right back on California Edition.
The Obama administration predicts how many Americans could become insured through the medical expansion over the next decade: 14.3 million, 17.2 million, 21.3 million or 24.4 million. Obamacare's medical expansion could insure 21.3 million Americans in the next decade.
It's California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We are coming to you from the state's capital, Sacramento, and we are joined by Ted Lieu. He's a member of the California State Senate. And sir, I want to speak with you about a bill that was signed last year, and it dealt with what's known as conversion therapy. What exactly is conversion therapy? It doesn't have to do with religion.
It doesn't. It's when a mental health professional, such as a psychiatrist or a psychologist, tries to convert a patient from gay to straight.
I see.
And the medical evidence shows that that cannot be done. And when they try it, it actually makes people worse off. It gives them feelings of shame, of depression. It's caused people to commit suicide. And so California last year became the first state in the nation to ban that practice for minors.
For minors?
Yes.
That's the key. I know early on there was some discussion about banning it for adults, but for a variety of reasons, the decision was made to focus just on minors at this stage.
That's correct, and it's because the state has always had additional authority to protect children from harm.
Now,
and a lot of times these children are being sent to these quack therapists by parents, and the children have no say in the matter, and it's really a form of psychological child abuse.
And interestingly, the American Psychological Association has come out against conversion therapy.
They have.
Which many say is a bold statement.
Yes. But it's not just them.
Please.
Every major medical organization has looked at conversion therapy. It's also called sexual orientation change efforts. They have taken a position against it. They have said it doesn't work, and it causes harm in people.
Now, another state followed your lead.
Yes.
New Jersey.
Yes.
Republican Governor Chris Christie, a Roman Catholic himself, he says that in his signature on the bill, he decided to sign legislation which would do the exact same thing.
That's right.
Ban conversion therapy in the state of New Jersey for minors. How does it make you feel that New Jersey followed the lead of Ted Lieu in California?
It's a great validation of what we did in California. His law that he signed mirrors the law that I got passed last year. It's very, very similar. I also happen to be Catholic, but no one supports psychological child abuse, and that's essentially what this practice is.
Interestingly, in California, the law is on hold.
Right.
Could you explain why it's on hold?
Yes, so 2 federal district courts looked at the law. One upheld it, another struck it down as to 3 plaintiffs, and now the Ninth Circuit has the case. And regardless of what the Ninth Circuit does, I believe this issue will ultimately be appealed to the Supreme Court.
Really? Even though it's a state law dealing with a specific issue unique to the state?
Right. So what their
We're both
opponents,
lawyers, which is dangerous,
right,
but be that as it may.
What the opponents are saying is it's a matter of free speech. What we're saying is therapists and mental health professionals don't have the ability to do medical practices that are harmful.
Whose free speech rights? Is it the parents or is it the doctors?
The doctors. So the courts, both courts, have rejected the parents' rights in terms of free speech for the same reason that parents can't have their children go to any medical treatment. The FDA approves certain treatments. So along the same lines, parents don't have the right to just do things to their kids that are harmful.
So as a sitting senator who drafted legislation, do you get involved in the legal process, or is that done out of your purview?
Well, so this case was a little different. We had attorneys and various civil rights groups and legal groups along the process in the whole way, because we knew that this bill had to be very tightly crafted.
At this stage, it's the Attorney General of California that defends the law.
The Attorney General defends the law, that's correct. And there are interveners such as Equality California.
When we come back, I want to speak with you about another legal issue. It deals with the National Security Administration. He's Ted Lieu, I'm Brad Pomerance. For our viewers on HLN, thanks for joining us. For our other viewers, we'll be right back. Senator, I've said this before, I very much enjoy reading your Twitter feed. You are quite gregarious, provocative, and not necessarily towing the party line. You're a Democrat in the Senate, and you're willing to go against the Democratic president, and you are as it relates to the NSA surveillance question.
Well, all elected officials, including the president, including those who are appointed to governmental office, take an oath. And the oath is not to any particular political party. It's not to an administration. It's really not even to this country. The oath is very specific. It's to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Well, let's play it out. So what we know about the NSA is that they have been tracking telephone calls. They're not listening to telephone calls. What they're doing is they're looking for patterns. And if certain patterns raise alarms, then they will seek an order to listen to telephone calls. Why is that problematic to you?
Well, so first of all, they have collected telephone information on every American, 270-some million. And the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution says that you can only have searches and seizures that are reasonable. Otherwise, you need to get a warrant. And you have to have reasonable suspicion.
Well, what we know, let's have fun.
Sure.
What we know is, for example, the U.S. Supreme Court has said that taking blood is not an unreasonable search and seizure. They have said that collecting trash from outside of your home is not an unreasonable search and seizure. If they're not listening to your phone call, but tracking patterns, how is that unreasonable?
So first of all, keep in mind, the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, lied to Congress.
In what context?
He actually denied the existence of this program, essentially. And he admitted he lied publicly. So one question is, how do you trust that what the NSA and intelligence folks say is actually true? So let's keep going with this.
This is fun.
They don't just search this database. They actually own it. They have it. Here's the problem. The government has these records.
Okay.
So number two, any bureaucrat in the NSA could potentially rifle through it and do all sorts of things. And so disclosures have come out showing that NSA employees have been fired for doing exactly that. Especially against
Edward Snowden? I mean,
no, this is other people. And some of them, they even have a term for this when they do it for love interests. They call it love int. So you have the capability of government with employees that they may or may not be able to control very well, doing all sorts of bad things. But it's worse than that.
Please.
It's not just phone records. So disclosures since then have shown that they have inadvertently, according to the NSA, also collected internet traffic, including emails.
Okay, well, let's talk about internet
and read
traffic.
them.
So, okay, well, again, the reading becomes more questionable. But if they're looking for trends, which is how many emails are you sending to Pakistan, and then they're getting a warrant, you still have a problem with that.
With collecting information on 270 million Americans' phone records, because they will know who you called, who called you, at what time, how long the call was, for every American. And the theory is that you are reasonably suspicious, and me, and everybody. That's the only way they can actually collect this information.
What can we do short of this?
So Congress introduced a law that was bipartisan, a Republican and a Democratic sponsor, with lots of sponsors on both sides, bipartisan. It almost passed Congress.
And that law would have?
It would have actually basically shut down this NSA operation with regards to phone records.
Okay, but let's go back. If you are correct, and what they have done is on the other side of the Constitution, how might our federal government track telephone information to protect Americans?
They have to have reasonable suspicion. The same law it's always been.
How did they create reasonable suspicion without knowledge?
Well, so here's the issue. That's a problem with the Constitution. If you don't like what the Constitution says, you try to amend it, but you can't violate it. So it's the reason that government can't just knock down people's doors and try to look for patterns. They actually have to get a warrant. Now, I've also introduced a resolution in the California State Senate. It's SJ 16, and the joint author is a Republican, Joe Anderson.
Well, there's no doubt that there are libertarian interests that are very upset about this.
So, but keep in mind this. The last time a Democratic administration violated the Constitution on a mass basis, over 100,000 Americans were interned, who happen to be Japanese Americans.
Ted Lieu makes us think. He is a member of the California State Senate. My name is Brad Pomerance. We thank you for watching California Edition.